Welcome to the Charlene Show, a show that talks about taboos, social, cultural, lifestyle, and human interest stories. I am your host, Charlene. Today in the studio, I'm joined by Alfa Bothwell Gwatidzo, who is a young man and a member of the International AIDS Society, a sector representative of Young People's Network for Youth in Tertiary Institutions, and a peer supporter in SRHR of young people and adolescents. Alfa was also a victim and is now a survivor of gender-based violence. And he has come on the show today to share with us his story as a survivor of gender-based violence and to tell us more about gender-based violence according to his experiences and through his work. Alfa, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Shalom. How are you doing?
I am doing well. I'm happy to have you on the show.
Anytime, Shalom.
Yes, it's not always that a man will go public about their. It's not often that a man will go public about their experience of gender-based violence. I mean, we hear that men don't speak. What has made you to speak?
To be very honest with you, it is the need to address those social inequities within our society. You see, the gender, I'm looking forward, men, we've always been told that we are strong. We don't cry. Men do not become victims. We are supposed to bottle things up. We're supposed to take things like a man and move on. But then this is the reason why we have a lot of men committing suicide, because the way a human functions is we have things that trigger you to do certain things that usually are stemming from what happened to you in a childhood. So a lot of things are often overlooked when it comes to males.
Oh wow, yes, you are very right. So as we continue with what you have just said, can you share with us a bit about your experience of gender-based violence?
Oh yeah, thank you. My experience happened when I was very young. I was around 5, 6, 7, and at that age we are excited by things that we think they are cool. Our peers, like we experience some things that our peers are not experiencing, and then we actually go to school and we gloat about it. What actually happened was I was raised by a single mom, and then I'm coming from a family with 5 boys. So my mom was always at work, and she had to look for the maid because I was second from last. So there was me and my little brother, the one who's before me, and then we were spaced by 4 years. So the other one was always going to school when we were home. So we were always left with the maid. So you see, I was around grade 1, grade 2, and I'll probably come back to school early. When in kindergarten or prep school, we finish off early, 12, 1, and then the maid will pick us up, and then mom will be home around 5, 6. So what happened is the setup at home was that I and my little brother, the little one, would sleep with the maid, right? And then my mom was, moms, they usually like their space. And my other brothers would use the other bedroom. So my mom was not even aware. So what the maid was doing was, during odd hours of the night, she would engage in sexual activities with me. Yeah. So at one point, like, I was very young, but
How old were you, by the way?
it had happened. But when I actually became aware that this was happening, I was around 7, 8.
Old,
Yeah.
The maid was sexually abusing you.
Yeah. So the thing now is, then I actually thought it was so cool. I would go to school, and then I would tell the boys, oh, this is what happened to me. They'd be like, oh, wow, you're blessed, that. And it was like the coolest thing ever, you see, because I was experiencing things that other people were not, and they were actually looking at me like someone who's their role model. And I bet then they probably wanted to try it too with their mates. They probably would be so glad if they were given a chance. You see. So going up the line, then I didn't even tell my mom. That's how bad it is. Because I was just like, you know what, we are men, when we approached with things like this, we're supposed to feel manly about it, you see. I went on with life. The maid, like, is usual. At some point in time, she had to leave. And when I was around Form 1, Form 2, then I was actually sexually active. There are certain things that started occurring to me because of the past experience, but then I was not aware. Still, I was not aware. I only became aware like 3-4 years because I was having certain problems in my life because of things that happened back then. You would realize that this is the time when you start asking girls out and stuff like that. Teenager is fascinating, yes. Things like that. But then when you are someone with experience with sex prior to the normal ages, there are certain triggers, like there are certain things that you are exposed to that may affect how you react in certain, or how you behave in a relationship, because this is what you believe is normal when you're with a girl. So you'd see, which I was always like the one to be around guys who were not my age, because I was well versed in things that had been fed into me prior to the right time. So I actually started engaging in sexual activity. It's a very tender age. And mind you, I'm talking about unprotected sex and stuff like that. It's not something I'm proud of. If only I knew then, I would have taken corrective measures. But then I believed it was the reason why people get into relationships. That was the way I was viewing things.
So you thought the reason why people got into relationship was for sex?
Exactly.
Okay.
Mm. So I ended up having, like, I'm a father right now. I ended up having a kid at 18 because you realize at one point you get someone pregnant, of which I actually got someone who was a little bit older than me pregnant, because I was always trying to get in relationships so that I can engage.
Okay. So it was not about love?
No.
Just sex?
Yeah, that was the main goal. Of which the thing with the modern society now, if I can use that word, is most of the times we as young people get in relationships, we have this exposure that we have and the need to experiment. So we are never shy, given an opportunity that there is some form of seclusion from the whole of the society, we end up engaging. And we just don't have any idea how to have safe sex. It's just, we just engage because we feel like it's the right thing people do. Lack of information.
Okay, and at what point did you tell your mother or your brothers about this experience that you had when you were young?
I haven't told my mom and my brother.
Oh.
Yeah.
So
but then,
when they watch this to be the first time they hear it.
That's if my sister-in-law didn't tell him, because
Okay.
some days ago, I was just sitting with her and I was just like, you know what, my guru, when I was little, like when I was around 7, 8, the maid used to engage in sexual activities. And she laughed. She actually laughed. She thought I was actually making some stuff up. And you see, that's the problem with the society. When we are trying to address these issues, people laugh about it. People don't take you serious. And then it's a bit of a problem, because when you tell someone, okay, this is what happened, people do not consider that I was young. I was the minor in that situation there. I was not really responsible for my thought patterns. There was an adult involved, you see. And people just be like, that's how the society views you, as a promiscuous young boy.
And how then did you manage to break free from this? Because you mentioned that the abuse when you were young made you to have some tendencies that you did not understand as you grew older. So how did you fight these? How did you break free from the effects of the abuse?
You see, a lot of men are dealing with issues, but then you get to a point where if you're someone who does self-evaluation, you look at your life and the activities that you go to. I'm a Christian, and I go to church, and there are certain messages that we are often preached to, and sometimes it just gets to you, and you evaluate yourself and how you're handling yourself as a young man in a society. So I would say church was one of the basic places where I was just like, you know what, I think I need to evaluate the way I'm living my life. I would say that. And then at school, I had joined the peer educators club when I was grade 5. So I was always into peer support. And around Form 3, I became president of the club at the school. So I was becoming well versed in certain things. So I was at least somewhat aware, Kuti, what I'm doing is not right, but I was not taking the corrective measures. So at one point I decided that I should visit a counselor, because they, you know, like I'm always engaging with, in the seminars and workshops that we go in, I'm always engaging with specialists and service providers. So I was just like, you know what, I think I need your services. And then I was given a card. She's actually a counselor and a psychiatrist. Then I went there. What's amazing is I actually went there on a different thing, but then when you get to talk to them, they give you a safe space. They provide you an environment where you start being open about what has happened to you, what you've experienced, where you're coming from, because they say there are certain triggers that make you do certain things. You act some certain ways because of certain things you've experienced. That's how thoughts are constructed. They understand the thought construction process, what the subliminal processes and the rational ones. So yeah, that's when she was like, I think you X goes 1, 2, 3, and this happened. And I was just like, you know what? She's just being a counselor. You know, we always feel like they have a way with the words and the trying to stay relevant. But then I had to do self-evaluation again after that. That's when I realized that, oh no, this has always been the reason. Because when you get to a point where you compare, not that I'm saying that I'm comparing myself with other people, but then there are certain habits that as a person you're supposed to be like, okay, why am I doing this? Why is the next person not doing this? And I have very great friends, if I may say, and I was very honest enough to be like, you know what? Why is it that you can have a normal relationship with your girlfriend? You guys can go for a picnic, you guys have fun, you guys, what is it that I'm missing? And then through change of information, that's when I realized, good to know, I'm actually looking at women as objects of sex. You see, which is something that I managed to link with. This is something that was fed to me when I was young. If that had not happened, I would not have been able to perceive that. If I had any normal childhood bearing, I would not have been able to do that. I'll probably look at a girl like my sister and everything like that. But you see, when you're coming from a background like that, even when you see a sister, you just have a pervertic way of looking at things.
Okay, because of the experience that
Yeah.
you did have. Okay, so you're sharing with us a story where your personal story, which is probably the first time you are coming out with this story.
Public.
Yes, coming out in public with this story. And yes, I salute you for that. Not many men will be in a position to do that. But I hope your coming out is going to help other men to know that they can talk about these issues, and there is nothing wrong with talking about these issues. So the house helper abused you when you were young. Your mother would go away for work and you'd be left alone with the maid. The same person who's supposed to protect you is the same person who was abusing you. What do you think perpetuates this type of abuse?
First and foremost, I would say that some of the rules that these house helpers are given by our parents, you'd realize that most house helpers, they are in an age where they are sexually active and they are told that you can't leave the house until it's Sunday. And our parents also do not provide a platform where they just come to us and provide an environment where they speak to us in a way that I can safely open up. They have this thing of making us we actually scared of them in a way. I'm not trying to say I was scared of my mom, but I'm just saying when you are a woman and you're raising 5 boys, there's a way you have to raise them because you're doing it without a father. So I probably understand what she was doing with us. She was just getting to a point where my older brothers were not, you can understand, my older brothers were kind of like not giving her the respect that she deserved. So she was trying to be tough with some of us who were still growing up. So I was never in a position to open up about some certain things to her. And it is the very same house helper who was having the mother figure who was entrusted with us, who was also abusing us because of certain restrictions. It's something that I always like looking at things from both sides. So I was just like, maybe it's because she wasn't given enough time to go see her boyfriends and stuff like that. But I'm not trying to let her off.
Yes, I'm
not justifying. It's just that I was trying to look at both sides of the coin. And there is also something about, I was thinking about this morning, about us as men, things that we take to be trophy, things that we think are very essential in our lives. You see, as a man, there are things that we think they are of intrinsic value, but they are not. And sex is amongst one of them. Sitting with other boys, you get to see people brag about the body count, how many people they've slept with and stuff like that. And those type of things also make men not realize when they are being abused, because they always take it as an achievement. But then they do not consider body autonomy, because there are some certain things that happens to you not because you wanted them to happen to you, but because of a certain situation that you felt like if you do not do it, you are not man enough. If you say this is wrong, you are not man enough. So those are some of the things that make us as men not come out easily. And of course the stereotype.
Oh yes. So do you think society understands gender-based violence? And do you think society is ready to assist victims?
From my experience as a peer supporter and someone working working in the communities with young people, I don't think that they really understand what gender-based violence is. The notion is that gender-based violence is when when a man beats a woman and when a woman beats a man. Our understanding as a society in most instances is limited to that. They do not understand that it can be in form of sexual abuse, whether it's rape or aggravated indecent sexual abuse, or mental. You see, so it's much broader than people beating each other. People beating each other is just a physical manifestation of gender-based violence. When people can no longer hold it in, right? It's two-sided. It's easy you have to understand that when we say society, we are talking about us as a people. We make the society. So us as a people, we are not really ready to assist people living with people who are victims of gender-based violence. Why? Because number one, people who have been victims are not ready to come out in most instances. A lot of young men and a lot of women have been abused in houses by either the house helpers, their aunts, the list is endless. Anyone else can be, some are even abused in the church these days. So you see, so we have given certain people different titles. And when I try to come to you and tell you that this man abused me, you do not look at him as a man because of a certain title that is attached to their name. You probably be like, oh no, you conceal it. You see, in most instances, it's my expense. So that's the other thing. And secondly, our society that we are living in right now, we believe in talking things out, but then we forget that people don't actually change when we keep on covering for them. That's where there is perpetuation of gender-based violence, whether it be it emotional, sexual, physical, or any other form. Even verbal abuse on social platform, it's some form of gender-based violence. You get to see some things we've normalized on Twitter. It's not very okay when someone posts a picture having salad with their cucumbers. You get to see the comments that people pass. People take joy in certain things that are not something you can actually be proud of. So there is a lot that needs to be done in terms of disseminating the information on gender-based violence. It's everybody's to play a role in addressing these things, and some people are just not ready.
And if you were given the opportunity to change something in society with regards to gender-based violence, what would it be?
I would say I've been given the opportunity, and I've actually taken an initiative for myself. I'm working with young people in schools. I'm into content creation, where I create content of what I want to do. Then I approach organizations like South AIDS, SRH Africa Trust. I'm a brand ambassador, by the way, there. So when they like what I've proposed, they give us the resources to go and talk to the young people. See, so I've taken an initiative where we engage young boys separately, and then we also engage young girls separately. Then we engage them all together with other service providers, because we are trying to address issues from the grassroots. You see, if somebody does this to you, this is not right. You report it. We want to address issues when someone still has, when there's still time to, what can I say? When there's still time to take corrective measures. And also, I'm also into CSE, comprehensive sexual education. It's something that we are advocating for the government to include in the syllabuses. So when we, let's say for example, when we are talking to kids who are less than 10 years, there are certain things that there's certain information that we have to filter out of the comprehensive sexual education songs and stuff like that. Those things are important, because if I had that when I was little, I probably would have been like, okay, this is wrong. So, because the moment something is being told to you constantly, you realize, and you can actually take corrective measures regardless of how small you are. Because when little girls are singing the songs, you can't touch this. When you do touch that, they can tell, because they've been told that. So yeah, and also I've been on radio stations, I've been TV, trying to address issues, trying to talk to the young people, because we now basically make up 60 to 70% of the population. We are the now. I don't believe the future and stuff like that. And most of what's going to happen to the generation that follows is going to be something that we cascade down. So we have to take the corrective measures now. Otherwise, there's going to be perpetuation of gender-based violence. And I also believe that, I respect about the 16 days, but I believe there should be 365 days, because gender-based violence is taking place for a very long time. And we should not only wait for 16 days to address these issues. It should be absorbed into the family unit, and then people have these conversations at family level, at community level, churches, schools. You see.
Thank you, Alpha. Do you have any word of encouragement or advice to, let me say, young men who are experiencing the gender-based violence?
Yes, I do actually. I do. And it's very sad that these days they are the cougars. You know, just because there's need to fit in, and you don't even like the lady, but then there are certain benefits that come from it. you do things that you do not like. I could have a word or two with those type of guys, because at the end of the day, it's your life. You're going to live with the consequences. I work with people who are living with HIV, and in some of the experiences that they share, it's very heart touching. You get to realize that someone was not even aware that it would get to the extent. They actually thought that it was fun, but then you'd have someone say, how does it feel to lose your life over something you did as a kid? And that's not something that you can really take lightly. So there are things that we as men do because we feel like it's the right thing to do, but then at some point you're going to become a parent, and then your whole family is going to be affected by some certain decisions you did just because you wanted to ride a Benz, you wanted to buy a pair of sneakers. So you see, we need to think in the long run as young men, and we need to know that no situation is permanent. We need to respect the process of growing up. We need to understand that everything you want can be achieved. We need to remove this thing of wanting to have things we have not earned or achieved. That is why this society, that is why we have so much going on in the society right now, and we don't even know when to start. But if we can start from the grassroots, like I said before, and then people grow up with enough information that you can work, you can get your own things. People just have to respect the process. So that's all I can say to the young men out there.
And any advice to parents or guardians out there?
Yes, never really trust anybody with so much. Okay, let me say this again. Never really trust people who you leave your kids with, to an extent that you do not check on your kids frequently. You need to check on the kids frequently, but sometimes kids can't tell. So you need to create certain environments where you put in check whether your kids are being abused or not. Because believe me, whether they are not being sexually abused, there is always some form of abuse that's taking place. There was this one incident when someone who's my classmate was saying her sister came home and the son suddenly had some form of odor that he never really used to, and she only identified when she was bathing him that he was being whipped, that he had scars on the back. So you see, that's some form of violence again. And so she actually believed that, oh, the maid is training my kid, but how was she doing it? Physical violence. So you see, you need to constantly check on the kids. They're young people who do not really have an idea of what life is all about. They are trying to figure it out. So it's up to the parents and guardians to watch out for them. And that's something that we often lacking as a society.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Alfa Bothwell Gwatidzo, for sharing with us your experience.
Thank you, Shalane. I hope I don't be running into my friends and they call me someone was raped.
So you see, that is the stereotype that we want society to stop.
Yes, exactly.
We need society to stop. It's no one's fault that they are raped. No one asked to be raped. So we shouldn't stereotype people who are raped. We shouldn't perpetuate the abuse. We're actually perpetuating abuse when we stigmatize people who are raped.
Exactly.
So we had Alfa Bothwell Gwatidzo on the show. Alfa was sexually abused by the house helper from the age of 7, and this abuse went for many years. And until today, he had never gone public with his experience. My take home to you parents or guardians: never trust anyone with your child. Person who abuses your child could be anyone. It could be the house helper, it could be a close relative, it could be a close friend. And Alfa experienced this through a house helper. Alfa experienced this abuse through a house helper. But this type of abuse is not limited to boys alone. Even house helpers abuse girls as well. So we need to be careful, we need to be present, and we need to be alert. Talk to your children. Ask them how their day was. Notice things that they wouldn't necessarily do. Notice those small things, because remember, abuse can come from anyone. So parents and guardians, I hope that this episode was an eye-opener. House helpers can abuse our children. Let's not be too trustworthy, whether it's a house helper or whether it's a relative or a friend. Let us not be too trustworthy. Until we meet again, goodbye.